We're live.
We're live? Oh, hello.
Phil,
and welcome to the Friday Beamdog stream where we talk about all things Beamdog and play with weapons.
Phil, don't kill yourself, please.
Okay, well, I'm just going to use this to wildly gesticulate as to what we're talking about.
And I'll just lean.
So today, we're talking about, hey, we've got some news about the Infinity Engine 2.5 patch. We're talking about Neverwinter Nights Head Start, which is, you know, a really, really cool thing that we're really excited about. And, of course, who can forget all of the neat, you know, unannounced things that we're going to be talking about today. And, of course, we're going to play some Neverwinter.
I'm just going to take all the weapons away from Phil. So,
all right, well, fine. So as you may have noticed, I've got this sweet hat to keep my bald head warm during the stream. I tried to get Trent into the Christmas spirit by wearing a Santa hat, but he shouted me down. So we're just going to get into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about Infinity Engine. We're going to talk a little bit about Neverwinter Nights, and we're going to talk about our new Trello board, which is where you go to vote on things in the Neverwinter Nights Head Start program. So first, let's start with some 2.5 news. So Baldur's Gate 2, and Icewind Dale, the 2.5 patch beta is out right now. You can get it on Steam, you can get it on Beamdog, and you can get it on Google Play on Android. Now this patch is all about fixing the multiplayer, getting everything really stable and in a great shape. So if you haven't played the beta yet, please do, and please play multiplayer. We need a ton of multiplayer feedback. Because that's what we're really trying to hone in on and fix and make really, really good.
Yeah, and I think being able to play PC, Android would definitely be a big help for us.
Yeah.
Anybody who can hammer it from two different platforms.
Any cross-platform play that you can do is extremely useful to us. So please go get the 2.5 beta and try it out for us. This beta will run through the holidays, and then early in the next year, we'll be finishing things off and releasing it. As well, we've added some new features. So, for example, Icewind Dale now has the new Shaman class, which is very, very exciting. And we can't wait for people to dig into it and look at all the cool stuff that's there. Other than that, we also have some sales going on right now. We have a sale on GOG, Good Old Games. So if you like buying your games on GOG, because those guys are cool, head over there and you can buy Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Baldur's Gate 2 on sale right now.
There was a comment that the stream is too Canadian. Oh, ye of little faith.
We can turn it up a notch.
We could roll 10 levels of Canadian beyond where we are.
Man,
we're being nice to y'all.
You can't see it, but off camera, there's this big hunk of bacon that I'm just taking bites out of. It's going to be really, really cool.
So, Neverwinter Head Start. What is Neverwinter Nights Head Start?
That's right.
Neverwinter Head Start is really about us making new versions of the game where we step it forward and we take input from the community as we move the game forward. Mm-hmm. So a big part of this, as you'll notice I said, take input from the community. So to this point, we haven't been great on the visibility front. So what we're going to be introducing is Trello. There's actually going to be two separate Trello boards. One of them is called Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. The Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition Trello board is basically a roadmap. This is the stuff that we are looking at from a development standpoint, stuff we've said, not right now, we're going to park this for the moment, and stuff that we're kind of soliciting feedback on. So can we switch over and we'll take a look at that Trello board?
Yeah, we just kicked this thing live, so if you can see my screen, we've got a Trello board set up. If any of you people have seen the Epic Unreal Engine Trello board, it's essentially the same sort of thing where you get to see proposed features, stuff that we've accepted, stuff that we need more feedback from you guys on before we can move forward on it, stuff that's active, and then things that we've actually shipped in an update. So first off, what can you expect from this board? So we've got a post in the info section that goes over what's on this roadmap, what each section means, what each list means, how you can get involved and give us feedback, that sort of thing. So the way that this is going to work is we take issues that we've identified as, yes, we can take this seriously. This can be something that the community considers. We put it on the Trello board, and then in the Trello ticket, there's a link to the Beamdog forums where you can actually go and discuss things, give us more deep, in-depth feedback on how you'd like to see these things done.
Yeah, so I really want to highlight kind of the main difference. The Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Trello board is where essentially we'll be putting a roadmap. This is where we are looking at things actively. So you look in there, there's there's info, which describes what it is. There's proposed, and then there's need more discussion. Need more discussion is really, hey, we're interested in this, but we need to dig deeper on this one.
Mm-hmm. So one example is UI Refactor Investigation. We've had a lot of requests and feedback around, hey, it would be great if you could revamp the user interface for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. However, there's about 150 different ways that could be done.
Yes.
So we need more information about what you're trying to do and what you think you could do if we upgraded the UI system and made it much easier to use, modify, etc.
The other side for us is we have to do a technical investigation and see what options are there. Are there constraints to those options? Are there commercial options? Are there open source options? Are there options that are easy for people to add to and modify and extend versus options that are more closed or proprietary? And wherever possible, I mean, we're obviously skewing it towards open and editable by people.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the big questions that's already popped is how do you get suggestions added to the Trello board? So this one we're looking at right now is the roadmap board. Now the way to get suggestions added is to go to the forums and to discuss the features you want. We have a couple members of the advisory board as well as Julius who are trolling through, and they will take stuff from the forums and they will put it into the other Trello board, which we haven't shown here yet, but we call it the input board. Now the input board is really where we're trying to kind of put everything that people are asking for. And we'll slowly migrate all of the requests, or most of the requests, over to the Trello board so that we can see what people are chasing down. So let's take a look at the input board. Right now, like there's most wished for ... most wished for new content, most wished for tool set, rules expansion. So there's a ton of new requests in there, and we're still porting them over. We just got this up and running just a few days ago. So requests are going to be ported over. They're going to get detailed out there. So when you put your request in on the forum, somebody will troll past it, see it. As you're discussing it, it gets moved up. Now the good thing about the input board is you can actually vote on features here. So by voting on a feature, you're saying, I want you guys to chase this one down before you chase down other ones. If you vote for every single feature, you have basically just not voted because you have zero value, because you've added one to everything.
Hey man, you gotta vote. If there's one thing we learned, you gotta vote.
Well, I think the biggest thing is find the features you really care about, vote for those features and those features only, and they will progress up. When they progress up, they catch our eye. It'll prompt an internal discussion, and it could get moved to the other board where we'll commit to working on it.
Now, when we say voting, the way that voting works in Trello is you subscribe yourself to a ticket. So we look at
the input board, we actually added voting.
Oh, you added voting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm wrong. Ignore everything that I say from now on forever.
But it was awesome. So we're getting the eye from the Dan. Dan is saying it's time to give away a spiffy
Jeez,
T-shirt.
That's a rude gesture,
because T-shirts
Dan.
are awesome. So
we're doing the Neverwinter shirts.
Yeah.
So we should start giving away some. I think we have some Dragon Spear shirts that we'll give away in some future streams. Perhaps.
I think we could do those too. The Beamdog shirts are internal only.
That's right.
You have to
get a job here.
Yeah, you have to have signed papers in order to get one of those puppies.
Right.
So
I exterminated a bunch of mice, so I was an employee.
Our winner for the T-shirt is Volt Sparks.
Volt Sparks.
Congratulations.
Volt Sparks.
That one's too well written.
I'm keeping that joke going no matter how hard I have to beat that dead horse. It's going to keep going.
Here's a question. Are there any plans for a boxed edition for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition?
So a collector's edition is, I think, what people are asking.
At this moment, no. We don't have any hard plans. It's something we'd consider in the future, but at this time, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us. But
I think if we could put together a package that was as equally as compelling as the Diamond Edition was, because that was like a really amazing package that they put out. Given enough time, I think this is a topic that we'd like to come back to. But right this second, we're focused on making Neverwinter great, and later we'll worry about, hey, now that it's great, how would you like to get it? And we'll see what we can do there.
I think that is probably the best description we could get. So if you want to be involved in the Trello, go to the forums, look at your features, look at the Trello, go to the input Trello, upvote the features you want to happen, and we'll be taking a constant look at them. Now, one of the things I do want to mention is if it's proposed or it needs more discussion, or even if it's active on the main Trello, this means that there are people looking at it and thinking about it. Sometimes we'll run into a reason that it just can't get done, and sometimes things will be killed off. That's just the way it'll play out.
Well, shall we give away one more prize, and then we can move into some gameplay? We've got
I swear we just gave away a prize.
But we can keep giving. That's the beauty of the stream.
If we give too much, we're going to build this false expectation.
What if we gave someone this axe and gave it to them in their forehead?
I have a general rule of thumb, which is you do not give people things that they can kill people with. So the reason Phil has pulled these out is that I made these because I'm interested in blacksmithing right now, and the tomahawk is kind of hilarious because it was the first forge welding I did. It's pretty crude, but I love it for its crudeness, and it's really, really narrow on the tip, so it is not a wood chopper. It is definitely a people chopper. So yeah, the tomahawk was fun.
You should see the scars in the back of my head. Ridiculous.
There wouldn't be any scars. You just wouldn't be talking afterward. You'd be done. And the Bowie, this is actually 5160. This is a leaf spring from a 1952 Mercury pickup that I have sitting in my shop.
And now it's found new life in the guts of his enemies.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun. I forged this rough shape out, ground it in as first full-blown knife I made. When I look back at it right now, I just kind of hate some things about it. It has some edge damage, so obviously somebody has been chopping something with it. I'm thinking those are hobo bone marks on it. So it's obviously been used a bit, but the edge has stood up fairly well. I think a little bit of cleanup, and it would be just ducky. Fun stuff.
So would you say that this is a Bowie knife +1, or is this a mundane?
This is just a Bowie knife.
Is it one of those ones from Baldur's Gate with the tainted iron, and when you're stabbing somebody, it'll just break off inside of them?
No, I think this is good iron. I think the only problem with this is the handle. This is the first handle I made, and the handle sucks. Bowie needs a little bit of curve to it. It needs a little fatter handle at this end. I also made it too thin here. So many things I have learned since making this.
Wholly unsuitable for stabbing people. You may as well just throw it out, Trent. All right, so
actually, it's my letter opener.
Oh,
I use it as a letter opener in my office, so it's kind of hilarious.
We're going to give away one more shirt, and then I think we're going to play a little bit of Neverwinter. So the winner of the shirt this time around is Marks the Cylon. Oh, big Star Trek fan there.
I thought that was Battlestar Galactica.
It's all the same. It's all whiz-bang lasers. I saw the new Star Wars last night.
Yeah, and if you say a word, I will punch you.
Well, I'm just gonna leave it that it was really, really weird that they gave Princess Leia a jetpack. Like, I thought it was cool on Boba Fett. I thought, hey, that's a cool bounty hunter thing.
That works.
But you can't just add it to another character and expect it to have this. It's like adding ice cream to steak, you know? Two great things that aren't necessarily great together. So
yeah,
that's my feedback.
I don't imagine ice cream and steak being a good combo.
Anyway, so today...
Man, we are so easily distracted to decide.
We're not going to be playing Silent Storm Sentinels as I had promised previously. Today we're going to be playing Neverwinter, but this time, instead of watching me stumble my way through the initial little preamble of one of the modules, we thought, hey, Neverwinter Nights has this amazing community of user-made modules that are really, really cool, so why don't we start showing these off? So today, we went on the classic Neverwinter Vault, and we found a cool module that I wanted to show off today. And I'm going to show you the intro here. So this module that we're going to be playing is called A Harper's Tale Prelude by Dave Mason. This module was actually made over a decade ago, I think. I think the last time it was updated was in 2005 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it works in the Enhanced Edition right off the bat. It's really, really cool, and it's a great showcase of the sort of things that players could build using the Aurora toolset. And after we play this for a little while, we're going to hop into the toolset just to show off, like, hey, this is what you can make, and this is what it looks like when you're editing a really cool module.
So it has a description, and I'm going to kick into narrator voice to read this part. As a relatively inexperienced adventurer, it comes as a bit of a shock that Calum has sent for you. You cannot resist the call of this old friend, however. He saved your life many years ago, when you were hardly an adolescent. But he has become a Harper now, and seeks your help. Will you become a Harper, What destiny will you choose?
So the Harpers are a Forgotten Realms organization that's dedicated to, you know, preserving the balance, I believe, is their whole deal.
Or a group of meddlers, depending on your perspective.
I'm a Zent, so I think that they're a bunch of jerks. But, did I load the wrong one?
I think things did not go well for the Zents.
All right. So I took the liberty of going through and actually building a character already and getting all my shopping done.
I love the horns on the helmet, dude.
Isn't he so cool? All right, let's take a look at Jimothy Rando here.
Jimothy Rando.
Jimothy Rando is a fighter. He's got some sweet basic equipment here, longsword, half-plate, shield, etc., etc.
So basically the starting gear if you are a lord's son or exceptionally wealthy.
So this entire module was constructed by a fan, as we mentioned before. They were able to use the Aurora toolkit that ships with Neverwinter Nights to construct basically this little self-contained adventure that takes place in the Forgotten Realms, where your buddy Callum is a Harper and you got to go help him out. So let's head into here. One of my favorite things about RPGs is that you can just go into people's houses and they're like, whatever, somebody's here now.
Yeah, as opposed to just losing their mind.
But wait, in this RPG, someone said, hey, I hate that about RPGs, and I'm going to make people react. So Neverwinter Nights is a lot of fun because the people who create modules love messing with tropes, and they have the same pet peeves as, you know, we do or a lot of other people do.
With random home invasions?
Yeah, so I'm going to address that. That's a very tall chimney.
It's an awesomely tall chimney.
All right, let's go find a cave. I saw one back here.
The cave.
The cave.
Bum, bum, bum.
So this is a little town that I stumbled upon. I think it's called Thunder Gap.
Thunder Gap.
That's right.
Is that anything like Thunderstruck?
A little bit. We should be playing music while we play these games. So in this town, there's a little bit of a Harper base, and I believe this is where Callum is hanging out. But on the way here, I wandered through some wilderness, and I got some cool equipment, but I spotted a cave that I passed by, so I'm going to go back and check that out. Hey, goblins.
So in a moment of rare generosity, Mark the Cylon, it turns out, has already won a t-shirt in a previous stream. I think he's our first multiple winner.
You can
So Mark has volunteered to give his Neverwinter t-shirt to someone new who can enjoy it much more than he could with his already having one. And the winner of Mark the Cylon's kind gift is Barry 1066.
Nice job, Barry.
Well done, Barry.
Hey, Barry, you want to know a funny story? So the first time that we went to... oh, it wants me to find Callum first. All right, that's good advice. The first time we went down to Wizards of the Coast to showcase Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition
What the hell does this have to do with Barry?
The character that I made as we were showing them the game was named Barry.
I totally didn't remember that.
And it was hilarious because everyone in the meeting was distracted by his funny name and didn't notice that the game kept locking up.
I think they would have noticed that the game kept locking
They
up.
probably did, but they were being very nice about it.
They were. And it did lock up a bit when we first started. Something about taking Windows 95 code to, an iPad. There was some flakiness.
Windows 95 x86 code to an iPad.
Yep. Let's just say there was some fear.
Hey, Harper.
We got a question here. Somebody's saying, is the new Neverwinter Nights going to be Linux compatible?
Well, he says really Linux compatible. So what's your distinction between Linux compatible and really Linux compatible?
So we're building the Linux version. We're working on the Linux client. We're working on making the standalone servers for Linux as good as we can. If you take a look at the Trello board, you'll see that 64-bit support is in the list. It's on a bit of a slow burn at the moment because it is a massive task going through a 32-bit code base from 2000 era and updating it to work on 64-bit. Now, Neverwinter has a couple head starts because we did start with the original version running on Mac and PC. So this was back when PowerPC days. So it ran Big Endian and Little Endian, which was a great thing. So it's a lot tighter in terms of typing and general level of cleanliness of the code than, say, the Infinity engine was. But it's still going to take some time because it is just a massive effort. There is another question here. Will it be possible to use EAX environmental effects with the new OpenAL sound engine? Right now, we do not support EAX with OpenAL. We're getting OpenAL up and running first. We're having a lot of problems digging around and looking at EAX support in general. It's one of those things that, I don't know, it was a brilliant thing at its time, and then it seemed like a lot of the support behind it just kind of melted away over time.
Yeah. We'll keep looking into it, but for right now, EAX support is disabled as we transition over to OpenAL.
Yeah.
If you're seeing things that are straight up bugs, please report them and we'll look into them.
So have you found Callum yet?
Yeah, I did.
And
So I had a little chat with Callum, and he gave me 3 tasks to do, a little bit of a Hercules-esque adventure here. He wants me to slay a dragon and do a few other things. I'm a little low level for slaying a dragon right now, I feel. So
why don't you pop up your journal so we can see what you have to do?
Well, let's see. So there's goblins that are causing a ruckus. There's apparently some flesh eaters in a cave to the north that are reproducing at an alarming rate.
Lovely.
And there's also some missing Harpers that I need to track down. So I have a full plate here, and I'm going to buckle down and get started.
That would be a good thing. We got another question here. Any chance of improving wine performance with the Neverwinter toolset? There are chances of it. So the Neverwinter toolset's compiled in a tool called C++ Builder. C++ Builder is very Windows-centric in terms of how it looks at the world.
Which company was that? Was that Borland? Does Borland even exist anymore?
I believe the company is now called Embarcadero, I think is the name of it. But
Rolls off the tongue.
there's a limit to what we can do. I mean, the best thing we can do is have someone take a peek at it, see where things are going sideways, and doing a bit of performance analysis on it, and see if there's some easy wins. The toolset's one of those kind of long burn efforts that we're going to have to really think about. So I guess the answer is no easy wins there.
Another question, are there any plans to add customizing armor appearances and colors in the original campaigns without needing to waste your skill points and craft armor? That's a good question.
You said in the original campaigns. So one of our policies, we kind of have the 4 guiding principles, and one is just don't go back and revise stuff just to revise it. If we're going to go back and we're going to touch something, there has to be a great reason for it. And I think the fact that you can use the craft skill to accomplish that customization, for now, that's probably going to be the approach we take with it. I think we're looking at some larger scale issues that we really want to solve. We have a question. Is there anything new I can see in this live game?
In this live game? Actually, yeah. So right now, if you take a gander in the distance, you can see we've got our depth of field effects turned on. And that's actually one of the effects that we were able to turn on for all of the game, including the old content, because it doesn't actually break anything.
Yeah, it's actually a visual post effect. So we could do a couple post effects, and we tried. So we've got
high contrast, we've got a vibrance pass, and we've got depth of field on right now. And if I turn these off, I don't know how well this is going to show up on the stream itself, but you can definitely tell on my monitor there's kind of a huge difference. So now the depth of field is off, everything's a lot sharper in the distance, the color is a lot flatter, and there's a lot less contrast, there's a lot of washed out colors in the distance. So I turn this back on.
So one of the big things to call out here is that Neverwinter Nights was built in an era when video cards were really just starting to take off, and it uses a lighting method that's called hardware transform and lighting. So it was basically cooked down and the video card did it. The problem with the video cards of that era is they basically rendered things from total darkness, and they would brighten up to full saturation of the texture. So games of that era were actually usually fairly dark. Fairly soon after Neverwinter came out, like KOTOR Knights of the Old Republic, we figured out how to do an overbrighten, which would actually brighten up the render so things would come above full texture intensity. But Neverwinter kind of existed in that magic era. So those settings that we just added as a post effect are kind of similar to the overbrighten system that KOTOR used, at least from what it's doing standpoint. From a execution standpoint, is actually totally different because this is now fully shader based, whereas KOTOR was still kind of a bit in the middle. There's a question. C++ can be words. C++ can be compiled in GCC, so why mess with Borland Embarcadero? C++ Builder is actually a tool, and it offers a whole lot of tools specifically around creating multiple forms and inputs. So it's not, the code actually isn't C++. The code is a combination of C++ code plus the C++ builder files that kind of control the layouts of all of the screens. So we've updated to the latest version of C++ builder that's still kind of backwards compatible. They ended that product and they started a new product. We don't want to pick that fight right now, but it's definitely
There's a reason that Obsidian rebuilt the toolkit in C# when they started Neverwinter Nights 2. And you know, they made some choices in the editor that we might not have made, but there's a very good reason why they moved away from C++ Builder.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things to call out is our priorities as a development company are back in those days were keep the data safe at all times, because if we wipe out the data by accident and we have to start over building the game from scratch, there will be much sadness. So the tool was architected both for end users to create their content, but it was also built in such a way that we could connect it to internal databases or otherwise preserve our data no matter what was going on. So, I mean, some of the original compromises don't hold true anymore. So, one of those things.
Yeah, we could just throw a lot of hardware at it now. It's great.
Yeah. Something somebody was wondering about. Here's something I've been wondering about for many years. Why was Body Knock excluded from the Hordes of the Underdark campaign when all the other vanilla henchmen were included? I think Body Knock lost the popularity contest in the office. I think the writers who were writing the companions for Hordes liked Body Knock the least. So Body Knock didn't get the lovin'. He just didn't get the lovin'.
We have another question. With 64-bit and increased memory available, do you think it would ever be possible to have LOD views of adjacent zones? LODs in general are absolutely possible, and it's something that we'll be looking into in the future.
The adjacent zones is a real problem because the zones aren't actually going to line up. And you can teleport to zones from many different ways, including even scripting portals. So I think the right answer there would be to make a bigger area as opposed to have zones connected together. Because if you want to build a world that's contiguous of multiple zones, what you're really creating, you're almost trying to LOD the AI and the other systems loads by having them be separate areas, as opposed to creating them in one monster big area. All of these things are horrible for AI and will crunch your whatever machine you throw at it down pretty hard. So I think it really comes down to think about what you're trying to accomplish here and think about the best and easiest way to maybe go about that. Like what Neverwinter or any kind of MMO likes is creatures that spawn in and get murdered because they spawn in, they take AI for a short time in the combat, and then when the combat's over and they're dead, they go away quickly. Whereas if you have a whole bunch of actors up and running around in an area doing scripts all the time, it's going to be heavy. So, no.
Creature LODs, though, I think that's something that we'll look into in the future, but that's a separate system.
I think LOD in general comes down to you're rendering things based on how many pixels it's getting on the screen. It doesn't make sense to try and render 10,000 polys and turn it into 500 pixels. Whereas if you're making 10,000 polys, you want it to be a good portion of the pixels on the screen. It's just being efficient.
We have another question. Are there any plans to update Neverwinter Nights script, like adding arrays, for example? So we're open to expanding the capabilities of Neverwinter Nights script, and that's one of the things that we need your feedback on. Like, what specifically are you asking for? If you can give us examples of things that you're trying to do, but the current scripting doesn't let you do it, please get in the forums, let us know, and we'll see what's viable and what isn't. But definitely updating the script stuff is not off the table. We can look into that for you.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is like asking for an array is okay, you're asking for an array, but what is the goal you're trying to achieve that you need the array for? Because maybe there's a variant idea that might be a better way of implementing it.
So I've worked with a lot of programmers for many, many years, and the thing that they, or more specifically Scott, has beaten into my brain is instead of asking, hey, can I do X, ask, I'm trying to do goal Y, and then he can help out and tell me, like, well, you shouldn't do it that way. That's a weird, stupid way.
Well, and
do it this way.
I think the other side of that is it might be that an array is exactly the right way to do it, but by understanding the details of what you're trying to implement, we can build the array in such a way that it actually works in the way you'd want it to, as opposed to just being kind of a random.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
ultimately, the people working in Neverwinter, like, there's a lot of just full-fledged programmers in there. I'm sure you guys know what you're doing, but we just need to know the details, and we can work it out for you.
So the guy's saying I need the array to deal with record sets from databases.
There you go. That's a good use for arrays.
Yep. So, I mean, ultimately, Neverwinter script was created first and foremost to be safe.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
It's basically a scripting language contained with a little safety on it. So it's got a timeout. If a script runs too long, it's in an infinite loop. It'll kick out. If a script tries, like, file access was a big no for us. Because we were terrified of the idea that somebody writes a Neverwinter virus, which is basically del star.star, and he goes in and wipes somebody's hard drive. And then somebody downloads it, gets their hard drive wiped, and they're mad at us because we allowed it. So it was really it was terror.
To be fair, that would be hilarious. That would be very funny.
No,
and we really have to consider the balance between comedy and what's acceptable to do to people's private machines.
What's the equation? Comedy plus, or tragedy plus distance equals comedy.
It's true. So if your hard drive gets wiped and I'm in Barbados, I think it's hilarious.
I don't think it's hilarious. I think you were a bad man.
Fair enough.
What about brand new monsters being implemented? So one of the things we talked about going forward was this idea of building new content going forward. Like, if you look right now on the Trello board, there's an entry that's called normal maps and spec maps. So normal maps and spec maps cannot work with existing content. Specifically, the biggest problem we have there is tangent space bias information. So some of the models in Neverwinter are mirrored, and when they're glued back together and the verts are merged, you get this really weird transitional artifact where the two normal spaces come together. Now, when you do a normal map on that, or even a spec map, you get this really weird highlight band that just looks totally wrong. So going back and applying normal maps and spec maps to everything as is isn't an automated process. It's nothing we could just step through. It's something that we literally are going to have to spend time and effort thinking about. How's this going to work? And then the right answer for us is let's just roll it forward. So normal spec map is really going to be forward oriented. Once we get it up running and things are functioning, we can take a look back and see if there's any processes that we can do that would allow us to revisit the old content. But I think even then we don't want to go through. My goal is to never go and revise the. Oh wow, Phil has died.
I was trying to.
My goal is to never go back and just re-implement everything. I always want to leave what's there, and I want to be able to enhance it going forward. So rather than overwriting stock assets, I might be tempted to make a hack or a DLC that we basically ship out that allows you to kind of update some of those assets. But again, totally optional and not shipped as part of the base product.
I have a question. Can you enable key remapping for the tilde key so laptop users don't keep hitting it by mistake? I think that's a pretty fair request to put in. Please go to the forums, add it in there as a request, and we can look at it when we look at key bindings.
And I think one of the key things there is if it's hitting a lot of people and a lot of people voted up, great. Yeah. If it's not hitting a lot of people and you're the only one, it probably won't get a whole lot of love.
What do you think of a Bard's Tale 4? Or Bard's Tale 4, sorry. I don't think I've played Bard's Tale 4 yet. I played the older Bard's Tales, and I enjoyed them quite a bit. But
I don't know. Has Bard's Tale 4 released? I don't think it had. I don't know.
I'm too busy playing Spellforce 3 right now.
I'm engaged in Shadows of War. I have a real issue with loyalty right now. My Uruk-hai troops are, or I guess they're not Uruk-hai, they're Uruks, are misbehaving, and smack.
Wrong IP.
Smack has to be laid.
Wrong intellectual property, Trent. Forgotten Realms.
Will any new art assets look so good that they clash with old assets in style and quality?
So that is something that we have had a lot of discussions around, and it's actually another one of the reasons why we're not planning on going back and re-arting everything under the sun.
This is why you die all the time. You run away, you trigger 1,000 attacks of opportunity.
You know, see, I'm doing an EverQuest style. I'm going to run a train to the front here, and then the next guy that plays, he's getting... Oh, this is single player.
Yeah. Your whole master plan doesn't work. Really, we're going to look at new content as it should be an all-new content chunk that we release. We don't want to mix old and new because there will be a drastic distance between what we could accomplish back when this game shipped and what we can accomplish today.
Is there a new limit for the amount of enemies / things that can be displayed at once? Or in other words, how many things can you have on screen at once before the game starts to chug? I don't know if there's a specific number in mind, but I can tell you it's insanely high because Neverwinter's requirements are so low, and we've also increased the memory cap.
Well, it all comes down to where it's slow. Like, there's so many paths that are running in parallel through any game. It really comes down to which is causing the hitching. Is it a graphical slowdown? Is it an AI system? Is it pathfinding? Where is the slowdown? Now, with Neverwinter, it varies so much because so much content is different. The official campaign, you've got a lot of scripting going on. You've got a lot of creatures that are trying to pathfind at any given time. So there would be moments where it really slows down. Whereas on the other side, you've got some modules where they're almost like random encounter areas where they run really fast even with high creature load. So it really comes down to finding the cases where it's slow, finding why it's slow. I remember in development, the game chugged horribly. And we're like, what is wrong with this game? And we went through and we found out it was the chickens. The chickens were trying to pathfind across a bridge, and there was a whole, what's the word for a grouping of chickens? A whole grouping of chickens.
I think it's a murder of chickens?
No, murder is crows.
Oh.
Chickens are nowhere near capable of murder. Chickens are food, man. So, but this chicken and all of his peers had basically crushed the frame rate. It's actually one of the reasons that the scripting command, the limit of scripts that could be run was actually limited, was the goddamn chickens.
So speaking of chickens and slowdowns,
I hated those chickens.
The first time I ever beat Baldur's Gate, the original, way back in like 1998, I was cheating because there was
I'm surprised. Phil was cheating in a game.
There was that chicken that you could spawn through the console that like had insane damage and health. So I spawned like a bunch of chickens in the final battle with Sarevok, and then the game was just running awful. Also, I was running out on like a Pentium 60, which was several leagues below the min spec. So
you were. That's kind of sad.
Anyway, that's my rambling old man gaming story.
See, my old man gaming story is I killed Samedge, the mage, and Samedge is actually James backwards. So James, this was kind of like killing James, so I totally had to tell James how I killed him, and I was like, so I did this fighter thief dual class, and then I jacked up with a potion of storm giant strength, hid in shadows, came around while distracting Samedge, my main char name, backstabbed, boom, 120 points of damage, Samedge explodes into chunks.
You know,
James, I just exploded you into chunks.
That could be considered a threat, but you know, I'm glad you coached it in the guise of talking about video games.
James and I have always had a pleasant antagonism to our relationship.
Alright. Is it possible to increase the resource limit of the tool set so that larger persistent worlds can be built without having to break the server into more than one and then using transitions to connect them? Yes, that is absolutely possible, and it's something that we can look into.
Put it this way.
Please add it to the board.
During the development of Neverwinter, we typed in numbers. We can go back and retype some of those numbers. And
like that number of players on a server, 64, is that a number that we could...
well, it's 64 in the UI, but it's actually 96 in the code.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's... again, it comes down to the load and what the game's trying to do. Once you start throwing too many resources or too many characters or anything at the pipeline, it starts to crush down.
Now that being said, like we're devoting a lot of our resources to helping persistent worlds do cooler things, make their lives easier to manage. Because for me, I mean, maybe it was different for you, but when Neverwinter Nights first came out, persistent worlds were where it was at. It was like, this was a time when every MMO under the sun cost money, and you had to pay like a monthly fee, and so all these persistent worlds would spring up, and they were basically micro MMOs, and they were really, really cool.
So when Neverwinter Nights launched, I was actually in my Luddite phase where I detested all computers, and I hid in my garage for 3 months and rebuilt my race car because I was so burned out that I couldn't even look at a computer without crying like a baby. That was not a healthy time in my life.
I guess I shouldn't laugh when you're saying that you're crying like a baby, but the visual, to me, at least, is humorous.
It took me a long time to be able to stand Disney movies after that. I had to like recalibrate my whole emotional sensitivity. It was a dark time.
All right, well, I think people are getting tired of watching me play here, so how about we give away another shirt?
First, we've got another couple of questions. Min specs for Neverwinter EE. We don't know. We're kind of stepping it forward. Well, I think the rule of thumb is as we add features, the min spec's probably going to go up. But I think if you have a computer from the last 3 to 5 years, you're probably golden.
Or even beyond that. Like if you look at the min spec for Neverwinter Nights right now, it's probably not going to get higher than that. You'll always be able to turn off these really cool effects. So if you've got a terrible netbook from 2011,
I guess, yeah, you're thinking min spec. I'm thinking recommended. Yes. I never want to suggest that somebody gets a computer that they'll have a bad experience. So I would say...
So don't buy a netbook.
If you've got something in the last 3 to 5 years, you should be reasonably happy.
I mean, so I have a MacBook Pro that has the Intel Iris 550 GPU, which is terrible garbage. Don't tell Intel I said that. But the game runs awesome. Like there's zero problems with it. I don't ever get any frame rate drops, so I think it's fine.
I'm sure nobody on the internet will tell Intel that.
Intel, I'm sorry. Please send me processors. Maybe we'll get tight with AMD instead.
I still remember getting Intel engineering samples back in the day to kind of pre-test features, and they ran them hot, like total mortality within 6 months. Those machines were so cooking.
Well, AMD CPUs back in the day in general ran crazy hot because they were just trying to compete with Intel without giving a damn about their power usage. Anyways, back to Neverwinter Nights.
We have a winner for our T-shirt.
It's I know that he's trying to write this in Leet speak, so I could read it as how it's pronounced.
The winner is Refactor.
I'm going to pronounce it as
Couture.
Here you go.
Yep.
I'm getting killed here again. Whoops.
Next question. Tintable VFX and maybe soft shadows? That would be amazing. So tintable VFX is something we can probably do.
Yeah.
I haven't dug into the VFX system. I just have very dark memories in the back of my mind about them. The soft shadows are basically a different shadowing technique. So right now, the game uses a shadow technique that's very hard-edged. Rebuilding a completely different shadowing system is something we've discussed. I don't think it's something we want to tackle immediately, but again, kind of one of those longer burn things.
Will we be adding more prestige classes, especially ones appropriate for spellcasters, i.e. ones that allow to increase spellcasting levels? I think in any new content we produce, we'll consider new prestige classes if they make sense, but at the same time we're also making it easier for you to add new classes that you would like to play with or that you would like to design and come up with. So if you want to build a monk that can cast every mage spell, that will probably be possible for you.
We have another question. Do the 2.5 patches for the Infinity Engine stuff convert IE games to 64-bit? Are there any benefits from it? So the 2.5 codebase is 64-bit based. That said, I'm not convinced on PC that we're shipping a 64-bit version of code. I think I'm not sure on that, to be honest.
We'll have to follow up with
benefit-wise, running 64-bit version, I think the biggest benefit is we can actually sell it on an iPad, because that's actually a hard requirement.
Yeah, any apps going forward now have to be 64-bit when we submit them to the iOS App Store.
Yeah, and in terms of like resource demands and everything, I don't think there's actually a real performance benefit to going 64-bit. There could be one, but it's not going to be massive.
Well, if we ever decide to require more than like 8 gigs of RAM for Baldur's Gate, then hey, there you go. We're on our way.
Yeah. Question about achievements with the to BG and BG2 with the 2.5 update. It's not in our plans. I don't think we have planned to add any new achievements.
No. But Icewind Dale, look out for it.
We got another question. Any plans to do something more advanced with initiative than what's in the base game? Few feats that enhance it, but the effect on gameplay is small. We haven't really talked much about initiative, and I think the goal there again is to open things up more than go back and revisit or refactor. So our approach there would be to say, okay, if a whole bunch of people have voted on initiative, there's a problem. Okay, how do we fix this up? So that'll be something to take a look at. Here's a question. 5th edition Neverwinter. So the Neverwinter Nights codebase as it stands has 3rd edition D&D rules pretty hard coded into it. I mean, you can see with some of the extended persistent worlds how people have been able to kind of take that base implementation and extend it out. I think we're going to try and open things up a little more to allow more of that. As far as 5th ed, that would be a fair bit of work. I could see that that being a little tiring.
If we produce any new content, it's something that we can look at, but we're not really ready to make any sort of commitments around supporting 5th ed right now.
And I really want to kind of take a cautious approach to stepping Neverwinter forward. If we jump ahead and we're like, it's a new piece of content and it's got all new art and all new levels and all new this and all new that, its backwards usage becomes very limited. Anybody who wants to use that content, when they throw it into an older module, it's just going to look wrong. And I think if we built in a incompatible rules version, we've just lost way too much cross functionality at that point. So we're really trying to do this kind of two-sided goal of introduce new and amazing features that allow more options, but at the same time, don't break that which has come before.
Here we go. I'm taking on the chieftain.
Are you buffed?
Yeah,
Are you buffed up?
Yeah, I took a potion of bull strength. Oh, he healed. Yeah, there we go. It's going to go different this time. I can feel it.
Stinking Cloud.
Oh, Lord.
But you're getting a tax opportunity on him while he is spellcasting.
Yeah. Eat it, evil goblin chieftain. Oh, come on. All right. No, that's Barkskin. I should have drank that.
Yeah, you should have. And then he
Oh,
summoned...
jeez Louise. Who designed this game?
Yeah.
There we go.
Just...
No, I'm getting beat here. Anyways, another question.
Keep
Have
going.
we settled on the cat-sized dragon or dragon-sized cat debate? Yeah, we did last stream. Somebody asked, would you rather fight a cat-sized dragon or a dragon-sized cat? And it's like, I guess, is the question, am I suicidal or not? Okay, this goblin chieftain is really...
For me, it was about size. You're running away. Running away and chickening out. Brave, brave Sir Robin. Are we going to see additional character customization options, such as heads, body types, etc.? I think in the new content stuff we're going to be build going forward. What are you doing, Phil?
Nothing.
Phil is loading the module in the tool set so that he can modify it and make it easier for
What
him
a
to
perfect
bring.
opportunity to give people a tour of the Neverwinter Nights Aurora toolkit.
Phil is Cheese Incorporated.
What?
If there's anybody who would find the cheesy way to do something, Phil will do it.
Anyways, this is right here why Neverwinter Nights is so cool. You're looking at it. So when Neverwinter Nights launched, it was sort of a direct response to building games in Baldur's Gate, where Baldur's Gate was very, hey, let's throw 1 million people at this game and get 1 million temps working on it. It was very system light, I guess.
Yeah, and Baldur's Gate creating of areas was very difficult. You had to do this kind of a lot of manual labor and a lot of clipping of areas and a lot of different just heavy manual processes to make content. So the goal with Neverwinter was to really speed the ability of the creator to build content quickly. And it was partly in a reaction to seeing Baldur's Gate modding actually happening that we opened things up to the extent we did. I mean, we always talked about kind of building a tool set and making it so people could create their own adventures, but we were partially inspired by the modding community that formed around the games that we'd already shipped. That, and I was obsessed. I just love the idea of democratizing game design, because making games, like making Baldur's Gate stuff, is really hard. I don't think everybody appreciates how hard those poor modders have to work to make things in the Infinity engine. So just knowing that and getting so excited about the concept of making game creation accessible to most people, really, that was a huge point for me.
All right, so I'm going to hop into the abandoned mine here. And now that Goblin Chieftain has embarrassed me several times over, I'm free to take my revenge on him.
And how are you going to take your revenge on him? By editing the guy, editing the module.
Here? Let's go to select objects here. Where are the items?
Well, items are over on the right side.
Here we go. Let's give me something useful here.
But you had something useful. It was called a Potion of Clarity, and you just didn't drink it.
It's not useful enough, you know? Like, I got to get something really useful. Where's the bladed weapon? There we go. Long swords. What do we got? Aramil's blade. Astral blade +8.
Yeah, but is this module running with restrictions on equipment you can use or no?
I don't know. We're going to find out.
Are you guys playing in any tabletop campaigns at the moment? If so, what characters are you playing? Personally, I am not. At the moment, I have a puppy. And having a puppy, that basically wipes out everything. There is no free time in my life. There is a lot of dealing with puppies and going outside and standing around and picking things up. Yeah, it's not awesome.
I am playing in an Escape from the Underdark campaign right now. I'm playing a Duergar wizard named Marduk, and I'm actually quite proud of his antics. I've successfully sold one of the party members into slavery, and now the rest of the party is hunting me for revenge. I feel very bad for my DM having to manage all this, but I'm having a great time, and that's all that really matters.
Why am I not surprised at the level of jackassery that is involved in
Listen, it's called role-playing, and it's great. All right, am I missing I'm on the wrong layer here. Does it not go with drag? I'm just embarrassing myself here. What do I do, Trent? There we go. No, it's restricted. You have a question. There are snake sounds coming in from your computer, which are loud. So
you are in the tool set, and the tool set isn't probably dealing with the sound correctly when you zoomed in close to something.
So the Neverwinter toolset does a lot of different things. You can manage your sound layers. All of the scripting is done there. All of the level layouts are done there. All of the creature management is done there. So it's very, very full-featured, which is one of the reasons why we're being very, very careful with C++ Builder as we come back to update this thing, because it does a lot of things for a lot of people, so we want to be very careful that we don't break it.
Yeah, first rule, don't break anything.
That's fair.
There's a question here. Any scripting aids or a script generator or easy random encounters? There's a few kind of things out there that do make scripting easier. And I mean, ultimately, I don't think that's where we want to put in a lot of effort. I think making random encounters easier that would be fine. I think looking at the random encounter system the way it is, I don't think it's that challenging. I think you can just drop down an encounter and allocate the table to it. I mean, ultimately, if it's important, go to the forums, vote it up, get it put onto the input page, vote it up there, and then we'll take a look at it and we'll get it moved over if it's something that a lot of people want help with. Another question. The ability to open multiple scripts or an area and a script window plus property dialogues would be helpful. You know, that might be a C++ builder issue. That might be something with how it handles windows. C++ builder at the time was the right choice for building the Neverwinter toolset. Today it is a non-stop level of pain for us fighting with an old, very Windows form centric way of doing things. So there's really a limit to what we can do there.
Rewrite it all in HTML5. No, that's a bad idea. Don't do that.
Yeah. At which point we spend 2 years and the game takes no steps forward at all. Will there be improved compiler functionality for the tool set? We haven't even looked at the compilers. I know that there's a couple efforts out there where people have built custom compilers that are actually better than the original compiler that shipped out. Again, if it's important, get it in the input form, get it voted up.
We have a rather expansive question. Is there a possibility to make a sequel to the original campaign which would continue the hero of Neverwinter's story? The plot of such official module could be independent from Hordes of the Underdark. The player will receive the opportunity to save Lady Erebeth or even become the Lord of Neverwinter. I mean, you could create the alternative sequel to the original campaign itself. What do you think, Trent?
I think the official campaign is dead to me. I think I slogged a lot of miles in that salt mine, and that story's been told.
But he's saying, is there a continuation? Do we want to tell Erebeth's story? Why don't we just make a module about Erebeth? She's apparently a fan favorite. She's super cool. You get to see her in hell. What a cool lady. I loved Erebeth, and I love the fact that in Hordes we kind of came back and you had that kind of option to redeem her. I thought that was a nice way to end the story. And I think if I were to go back, I think if I were to create new story content, I would do new story content that was more exciting to me. I mean, do you have any settings in mind that you would like to tell a story in? Spelljammer, of course.
You and your Spelljammer.
Spelljammer is legitimately good, and anyone who says otherwise is incorrect.
I am not a fan. For me, my fantasy lives in a very narrow band. The instant guns or ships that sail across time where space weaponry becomes involved, you have broken fantasy for me.
I mean, with Star Wars, it's space fantasy, you know?
Star Wars is not fantasy. Star Wars is space fantasy.
If you don't like galleons flying through space,
I don't like galleons flying through space,
then you're really not going to like The Last Jedi.
I like elements of hard science applied to fantasy.
There you go.
With some room that I'm willing to cut for magic, but I'm pretty tight on this. It's.
Tell us how you feel about gnomes.
I'm very firm in the Robert E. Howard Conan world. If Conan
how would
can
gnomes
confront
work in the Conan world? What would your pitch be for that?
They would be meat.
They would be crushed underfoot.
People would be crushed underfoot.
Before the Hyborian Age, the gnomes were wiped out.
Exactly.
All right, so we're getting towards the end of our stream here, so we're going to go back and retell you guys about all the stuff we told you about before. So
first thing, Head Start. Head Start is available to people who pre-order the game on Beamdog. You can get into the Head Start program, you can get access to the current builds, and you can be playing it. We just updated the build. We were trying to do one for last week, but we had a couple critical bugs. We did put in OpenAL, and we did put in the MP3 libraries, and we moved the movies over to WebM, so chances are there's going to be some bizarro hardware combo that blows stuff up. If you have said hardware combo, we want you trying it so that you can blow it up, so that we can figure out how to make it not blow up for other people who have the same kind of combo. So Head Start, go to Beamdog, you pre-order it, and you sign up for Head Start, and grab the Beamdog client, you can get your copy.
As well, as we mentioned before, the Infinity Engine 2.5 beta is out right now. We really, really want you guys to get in there, play Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Baldur's Gate 2, especially in multiplayer. Give us as much feedback as you possibly can. We have a survey linked on our Twitch page right now about the 2.5 beta. So once you've tried the beta, please fill out the survey. We need as much data as we can get because we want this to be a really solid, stable release. Because after 2.5, this answers a question that people have been asking about Dragonspear. After 2.5, we're going to move Dragonspear to tablets. So 2.5 needs to be as solid as can be so that Dragonspear is an excellent experience for everybody who gets to try it for the first time on iPad and Android. So please fill out the survey, please play 2.5, and I think we should give away a shirt.
Okay, but I do want to touch on the Trello again. Okay. Remember, talk in the forums about what you guys want. When we see enough discussion on something, it gets moved into input where you can vote it up. When things have been voted up, we take a hard look at them, and when things come open on the development side, that's where it'll propagate. Input will propagate to proposed. Proposed can move through needs more discussion into active to shipped, and that's kind of the process we want to go on. Because, like I said, we as the developers, I mean, we have a perspective on things that we just don't see some of the big challenges that persistent world teams are seeing or that other players are running across. So by bringing those to our perspective, you're like, oh, we didn't even realize that was an issue. Sure, we can go in and fix that. Or sometimes we can go, oh my God, that is the doorway to the 9 hells, and we will not go there.
Fair enough. One of my particular favorite features is this multiplayer tunneling, which I hope gets in pretty soon.
Yeah, multiplayer tunneling, I mean, it's really become an issue as firewalls really became prevalent in, especially pre-installed firewalls in routers. Back when Neverwinter shipped, the internet was much more open. It was much less of a hassle. I mean, Neverwinter, as it stands right now, is kind of similar to Minecraft, where you'll have to go on your router. If you want your adventure seen, if you want your server seen by the world, it needs to either be outside of a firewall or it needs to have specific ports opened up to the world. If you don't know how to do that, right now you can't see all the people that are playing multiplayer Neverwinter on servers that are hidden. So going forward, tunneling would open that up and allow everybody to see all the games that are open.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here. We have one final T-shirt winner, and that person is Zhao Chen.
Zhao Chen.
Zhao Chen. Congratulations, Zhao Chen.
Chen.
You won yourself a T-shirt. Coming up right after our stream is the D&D Beyond stream on the D&D channel, and that starts at 11 a.m. PST, 12 o'clock Mountain Time, and some other unimportant time on the East Coast, because who cares about those people? So thanks for tuning in, folks. Go check out D&D Beyond, and we will see you next Friday to talk Neverwinter and Infinity Engine.
And anything you want, post it on the forums. We'll get it propagated. And Phil, don't hurt yourself because that's sharp.
Is it?
It's sharp, and it's definitely a people chopper. You've tried that visual cue multiple times.